Stand here? Yeah, he's right there.
Okay. Good morning. The January 10th, 2017 regular Board of County Commissioners meeting will now become to order. We'll begin with the invocation by Stan Bowling, Community Development Director, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Let's pray. Lord God, this morning we recognize that you start, you continue and sustain, and you complete all things. And amazingly enough, you allow us sometimes to participate in what you're doing or not. And we ask this morning that you would allow us to participate in what you're doing, that within each of us, you would start and sustain and complete what you want to shape us. And that outside of us, you would allow us to be involved in starting, sustaining, and completing things that are shaped the way you want them to be, for your joy and for ours. So we submit ourselves to you, and we also look to you for the strength to start, to sustain, and complete things in a way that glorifies you. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the greatest nation on earth. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think it's just wonderful that so many folks turned out for the acupuncture update, and just want to thank everybody for...
Thank you for
I
that.
don't know
We need your
if we want to move that item up because there's so many people here for it, or...
Is that okay? No, I think there's something else that they might be here for, and we have the great honor and privilege of having our constitutional officers sworn in and confirmed today. So without further ado, I'd like to invite the Honorable Judge Pegg, who will be conducting the ceremony for all of the constitutional officers today. And you're free to take pictures during the process, but we'll take a 2-minute break and take pictures afterwards too as well, whatever you want to do. Thank you, Your Honor, for that.
Thank you, sir.
As well. The first constitutional officer by, in no special order, will be Jeff Smith, Clerk of the Court.
Raise your right hand, please. I, Jeffrey R. Smith,
I, Jeffrey R. Smith,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida,
the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
that I will well and faithfully perform
that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of Indian River County Clerk of the Circuit Court and Comptroller,
the duties of Indian River County Clerk of the Circuit Court and Comptroller,
on which I am about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Your Honor, if you will, the next constitutional officer will be David Nolte, property appraiser.
Raise your right hand, please. I, David Nolte,
I, David Nolte,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida,
the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of Indian River County property appraiser,
the duties of Indian River County property appraiser,
on which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Your Honor, the next would be the Office of Sheriff, Sheriff Darrell Law.
I, Darrell Lohr,
I, Darrell Lohr,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida,
the Constitution and the government and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of Indian River County Sheriff,
the duties of Indian River County Sheriff,
on which I am about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Your Honor, the next we'll have is the Supervisor Elections, Leslie Swan.
I, Leslie Rossway Swan,
I, Leslie Rossway Swan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida,
the Constitution of the United States and the government
the state of,
Messed
Flo-
that
of the state of Florida,
the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
That
to
I-
hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of Indian River County Supervisor of Elections,
the duties of Indian River County Supervisor of Elections,
on which I am about to enter.
on which now I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, last but not least, will be the tax collector, Carol Jean Jordan.
Raise your hand. I, Carol Jean Jordan,
I, Carol Jean Jordan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and
the
defend
Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida,
the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state.
and that I will well and faithfully perform
I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of Indian River County Tax Collector,
the duties of Indian River County Tax Collector,
on which I am about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. And they all did so well because we have a unique experience. We have all tried and true incumbent constitutionals. Thank you all. We truly appreciate that. Now, with that, if there's any opportunity, if anybody wants to take any pictures, we'll take a 2-minute recess to take some pictures. That should about do it, right? Meeting will now be called back to order, and I want to say congratulations to all of our constitutionals. With that, is there any additions, deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, at the time, I'm going to merge my item with Jason Brown, the County Administrator's update. So my item number 14E1 will get covered under the presentation by the County Administrator.
Very well. Anything else?
And that's under 12E1, should actually be under 12D1, under Human Resources.
12D1. Okay. Are there any other changes?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion to adopt by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Zorc. Any further? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Proclamations and presentations. We have a presentation on the 2018 Vero Beach Air Show by none other than Colonel Marty Zickert. Good morning, Colonel.
Good morning, everyone. For a minute there, I thought you were giving away free beer. Never seen that many people in here at one time. Commissioner Adams, congratulations. My first time in front of you. Tonight starts the very first air show meeting for 2018. The Blue Angels will be here 2018. They gave us the dates of April 21st and 22nd. I went out to Las Vegas. I didn't want to go, but they made me. And we do an International Council of Air Shows where there's approximately 2,000 people of all looking for air show people, looking for jet teams. As you know, there's 3 jet teams. We're getting the Blues again, which is an absolute coup. And the reason we're getting the Blues is because they love Vero Beach and Indian River County. They just thought it was an absolutely wonderful place. I had a long conversation with the lead, Ryan Bernanke, as to why they weren't able to come here in 2016. And the primary reason was they weren't able to fly enough to feel that they were proficient in their formation. If you don't fly and have a 2-week break, it's like starting over. So unfortunately, they canceled, but they said that whatever Vero wants, and we have Admiral, his last name is Bull, said whatever Vero wants, you give them. So it doesn't get any better than that. They have a heart for Vero. They loved coming here. They want to come back. I went up to the funeral for 6, and every enlisted person up there was looking forward to coming. So I took a number of thumb drives along with me and gave them to the Blues that showed what we did here in 2016. So they'll have an idea somewhat of what we're doing. We're not changing the format. Everything's going to stay pretty much the same. The difference from the county, the difference between the 2014 and the 2016 air show was significant, and primarily in the area of law enforcement. It seemed like every time you turned around, there was law enforcement out there directing traffic, taking care of things. Quite frankly, when you're directing traffic in an area like that, if you don't have a uniform and a gun, they ignore you. Hate to say it, but that's human nature. So this time it worked out really well. And Sheriff Lohr, thank you for the help. It really was great. We'll look forward to it again. We have a great team on board. And we just will, I'll come by and tell you how things are going. But everything went really, really well in 2016, particularly the Saturday night event, which was a real hit. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to start doing a number of fundraisers that involve the county. The new shooting range is going to get used. We're going to do 2 events out there in the near future. One of them is going to be a fundraiser for the Veterans Council, and the other one's going to be a fundraiser for the Blue Angels. As you may have figured out, we took a hit when the Blues didn't show up, and now we've got to recover from that, and we will. So that, in a nutshell, is where we're started. 15 months from now, we will have an air show here. I know that sounds like a long time, but you yourself know that 15 months goes by in a hurry. and we're looking forward to it. If there's anything that you need from us, please let me know. I'm the representative on the board of directors, and we look forward to it. Any questions?
I have a couple, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner O'Brien?
Okay, go ahead.
Marty, I know we've got the dates for 2018, and I think they also have a promotional YouTube video link, and I don't know what time it would be appropriate for us to at least just have Vero Beach Air Show 2018 a link on the county site, because you have a lot of information.
That'd be fantastic. We just came out with a brand new revised edition, and we will definitely put that onto the county. So it would be great.
And will the Saturday night we had it under the Oaks last year, will that now be a venue at the North County Range on a Saturday evening, or are they still going to have some type of Saturday?
The Saturday event will stay at Riverside Park.
Okay.
Friday night, it's pretty much the same format. Friday night is a sponsor recognition, and that is going to be probably 10 to 12 of the Blues come to that one. But they have gone out of the recruiting business. They're no longer out there to do recruiting. What they want to do is to be able to show the general public what a military person is like, and what's the bang for your buck, quite honestly. And that's what they're looking for. And that's why we're going to have all 65 to 70 of them will be at Riverside Park. And Riverside Park is going to be a very quick introduction, and then you turn 70 of them loose in blue uniforms. It's going to be awesome.
That'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Marty, before the 2016 show and before they had to cancel out, they had a couple of the pilots come in and fly in as an advanced logistic team, and we had a big meeting at the airport to cover a lot of things. I mentioned then that from my perspective, the Board of County Commissioners, we wanted the Angels to fly low, we wanted them to fly fast, and we wanted them to fly loud. And so I want to just reiterate that. If you can pass that message on, and if there's any complaints about noise, I'll take care of them. But I want the people here, when they hear that loud bang up in the sky, instead of running and ducking under tables and chairs and running for cover, I want them to look up and recognize that that's the sound of freedom they hear flying overhead. So
absolutely.
If you would tell them low, fast, and loud.
We will let you know. They do the winter visit. It'll probably be just like last year. It'll be in December is normally when they do the winter visit. They only stayed 3 hours last time. And the reason they only stayed 3 hours is because we have our act together. They knew when they came here they didn't have much to do. One of the things we're working on is to try to reposition the Blues. And I don't know how that's going to work, but we would like to have them nose on to the crowd. That's one of the things that may or may not happen. It requires some work on the runway, but since they're on the taxiway, but they are working on the taxiway as we speak. So maybe we can get something. My goal is to get the Thunderbirds here in 2020. And I think we've got a very good shot at it. I talked to them while I was out in Vegas, and they said, you're on the radar. So they do things a little differently, but we've got a couple of good contacts with them. Anything else?
Colonel, thank you so much. It's an event that the citizens look forward to. It's a great event, and it may be short in our time, just a day or two, but I want to say thank you. It's a year-long event for you, and it's a lot of logistics, a lot of meeting, and a lot of decision-making, and we truly appreciate it. If you need anything along the way, you call upon us.
Don't worry, we'll do that. We appreciate the help. Everything's great. Congratulations to Marlene. She picked the right service.
Thank you, Colonel. You were very much part of that selection process. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to work with the County Commission. I've always had a great relationship with you guys and gals, and I'm looking forward to 2018. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel. Next item on the agenda is a presentation by Ann Berner, Chief Executive Officer, and Becky Walker, Director of the Network Management Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network. We have an update on Senate Bill 12. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Becky Walker, and I am the Director of Network Management for Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, which is also known as the managing entity for the Southeast region. And I'm here today to talk about three things. One is the Senate Bill 12 requirements for a transportation plan and for a designated receiving system. And the third thing is to talk about the Department of Children and Families, Criminal Justice, Mental Health, Substance Abuse Reinvestment Act grant. And I'll start with Senate Bill 12, which was passed last year, 2016, in the legislative session, that requires counties and managing entities, us, Southeast Florida, to work together to develop a transportation plan for the county for behavioral health. And and also a designated receiving system. And I talk about them together because they are very much interrelated and intertwined. And what a transportation plan has to do with is when people are involuntarily committed, either under a Baker Act for mental health or a Marchman Act for substance abuse, to a facility, there has to be a plan for each county on if they're taken to say an emergency room under a Baker Act, how do we get them to the proper receiving facility? And really the first question in it is, do we want to do it as an individual county or as a multi-county plan? Indian River County has one Baker Act receiving facility, that would be Indian River Memorial Hospital. They also utilize New Horizons of the Treasure Coast, that is the facility in this area which provides indigent beds. So question number one will be, do we want to do it as an individual county or as a multi-county plan? And so the second piece to this is a lot of counties are using the Public Safety Coordinating Council as an entity to help bring that plan together and present it back to the Board of County Commissioners, because the plan has to be approved at three levels. It has to be approved at the county level, it has to be approved by Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, and it has to be approved by the Department of Children and Families. So the options for how do you provide transportation, generally it's done by law enforcement to the receiving facilities. And in Indian River County, having Indian River Memorial Hospital as a receiving facility designated for this area, primarily law enforcement transports to the facility. You know, other communities or counties have to look at whether they want to use a private company that would provide the transportation between facilities. So the designated receiving system part of this is that there has to be, Senate Bill 12 requires no wrong door. That when you take somebody to the receiving facility, they provide the treatment for them or arrange for that treatment to be delivered. So what the next step is for Indian River County is to tell me who you want me to work with to develop that plan. We have a draft plan already that we're using as rather a template. It varies based on the county size. We're working on 5 different counties because we cover Palm Beach, Martin, Indian River, St. Lucie, and Okeechobee counties. So we have a template, and like I've said a couple times now already, it's small enough that we could do that without a lot of intricacies involved. It basically involves getting law enforcement involved and working with the Public Safety Coordinating Councils and Indian River Memorial Hospital, New Horizons, and a plan could be pulled together. So we have to have it in place by July 1st, 2017. So we would like to move forward with working with the partners and be able to go through the Public Safety Coordinating Council, have their blessing, and bring it back to you around March or April so that it can be implemented by July 1st. And that would include both the designated receiving system and the transportation plan and meet all the requirements of Senate Bill 12.
To the board, if it's okay, I started working with this board in July and setting up the Public Safety Coordinating Council. I'd be happy to continue working with Becky and the Behavioral Network in making sure that we have a plan that comes both before the council and before this board before July 1st.
I understand the chairman designated me to be involved with that committee, so I look forward to working with you and all of our chief officers of all of the municipal law enforcement agencies, as well as our sheriff, because the bulk of that will be lying upon his resources as well.
And I'm very happy to hear there's a draft plan, and Becky, I'd be happy to see a copy of that when you get a chance.
I will get it to you in
Mr.
the next
Chairman?
couple of days.
Thank you, Councilor. Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Becky, just a couple questions. One, how much funding did the legislature allocate to go along with Senate Bill 12 to implement all this?
Specific to transportation plan and designated receiving systems, they did not allocate, make any allocation for that. There was some funding available for a centralized receiving system that 3 entities in the state were allotted funding for.
Okay. Commissioner Adams, this is when you're supposed to say, wait, let me get my surprise look on, because that was the District 1 contribution.
Unfunded mandate.
More seriously, Becky, walk me through just what happens if we do have a Baker Act or a Marchman Act. I assume law enforcement is called, the family calls, hey, come get my husband, brother, whatever. Law enforcement shows up, and then they would transport that person to Indian River Memorial Hospital, is that?
Yes.
Okay. And then from there, does the treatment occur at the hospital, or do they then send it to the appropriate mental health processor, their substance abuse? Where does it go from there?
Indian River Memorial Hospital does have a behavioral health component, so they do treat people there. If they are full or the person is indigent, they also have the option to send them to New Horizons of the Treasure Coast in Fort Pierce, which would provide the treatment.
And okay, so is that the basis, whether they have good insurance and can pay the hospital rate, or they're indigent and the hospital kicks them out and off they go?
Well, most hospitals treat many indigent people, including Indian River Memorial Hospital. So they do end up treating indigent people. They don't have the option to just kick them out.
Fortunately, a lot of that logistics is taken care of on the telephone by our qualified individuals at the Sheriff's Office, and a lot of information before that transportation takes place has been vetted out. So I see your concern. You're looking at, is there 1, 2, 3 trips that are going to have to be made, or we're going to be tying up a deputy or an officer? And I believe, Sheriff, if you want any input on that, I believe that's the case, that the phone has quite a bit of power too, as far as availability and room on arrival.
Yeah.
So do we need a formal action on this, or we just go with consensus with Dylan's recommendation?
I don't think we need a formal action today. I think for me, what was most important is under Senate Bill 12, we are essentially responsible for the types of issues, addressing the type of issues that Ms. Walker's talked about today, but that we work in coordination with the managing entity, which Becky is a part of, and the fact that they work in and are required to assist several other counties. I thought it was important to get an update. I was very happy to hear we have a draft plan already put together, and now it's just working with the chair on making sure the appropriate council meetings occur and then bring it back to the commission. So for me, I didn't really necessarily need any formal action. I just thought it was important for this board to hear an update as to where we were in compliance with Senate Bill 12. And I think Ms. Walker also was planning to talk briefly, if the board wanted, just about the status of the grant that the board applied for last summer, if the board wanted to hear about that issue.
Commissioner Solari?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Becky, just to get some idea of the scale and scope, do you have any idea of roughly how many people would be Baker Acted annually, or if there are other groups, how many people would be under this new Senate 12 annually?
I do not have those figures. Part of that is the difference between Indian River Memorial Hospital and how many are coming to New Horizons of the Treasure Coast. But I will have that information for the to put in the draft plan and to present to the partners in putting the final touches on the plan.
And you mentioned that whether it would be done by law enforcement or a private company. I mean, I think in the conversations, and I think that probably the determining piece will be the sheriff's view on this, you know, what is necessary to safely transport someone to the receiving facility. But we have the community coach, which I think ought to be part of the discussion with senior resources, because that might be, I just don't know, because I don't know what the needs are, but if that can be utilized, it would certainly seem to save a lot of the sheriff's deputies' time. But
Right.
I just think that should be part of the conversation.
And I think also what we're trying to build into all of the plans is to look at how do we keep people from being Baker acted, and can they be safely treated within the community to keep them to before the point of a crisis. And that really speaks to the other grant that I'm here to talk about today too.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anything further? Thank you. We look forward to working with you. Is there anybody from the audience that would want to have input on this? Okay.
Would you like to hear about the update on the grant that we applied for last summer?
Certainly.
Please.
We were designated by you to apply to the Department of Children and Families for a Reinvestment Act grant. That's the short title of it. And the purpose of it was to expand the mental health court. And the Public Safety Coordinating Council was also involved in helping us to develop that. And we worked closely with Judge Cox and the Sheriff's Office, Major Strickland, and as well as some of the other partners, and the Connection Center, the Mental Health Collaborative. And submitting the grant, we were awarded $400,000 a year for 3 years.
Nice.
And it starts as of January 1st, although we have not yet received our contract from the Department of Children and Families, but we're expecting it any day. And so we are ready to go. We'll be able to add some critical services to the mental health court. We're adding therapists. We're adding some peer specialists to engage the clients and provide some assistance to the case managers, and also some other funding to be used for housing, for any other incidental things that they may need, and for other mental health services that are required, so that we make sure that the current 94 people that are in the mental health court are getting what they need, and to also expand that by another 30 people a year. We are ready to go. We've been meeting really through the holidays to get ready to start. As soon as the contract is signed, we are ready to have people in place and get started.
Well, thank you for that. Well, you've reduced the pain of the unfunded mandate that we discussed earlier.
I hope so, and I believe this will, because the idea behind this, the mental health court and this grant opportunity, is to keep people out of this deep end of the system, to keep them from needing to go to the state hospital, to keep them from being Baker acted, and provide the services up front so that they don't get to this point, and really to relieve law enforcement in a way from having to respond to Baker Acts if the people are already connected to services and getting the therapy and the medications that they require.
Thank you. Any further? Any questions?
No, that's great news.
Thank you.
Thank
you
We
very
look
much.
forward to working with you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for November 15th, November 22nd, and December 6th.
Motion to approve?
Second.
That's a motion by Commissioner Zork, seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Commissioners, we have informational items next. I did want to discuss item F and briefly item D. which is the electronics household hazardous waste recycling event. Himanshu, can you give a shameless plug? I know that we have a presentation coming up, but, you know, plenty of notice. We're going to do well.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Commissioners. Himanshu Mehta, Solid Waste Disposal District. Thanks for the opportunity to kind of inform our residents ahead of time. We will be coming back with a presentation next week about this event. But we do have an upcoming electronics and household hazardous waste recycling event. It's a free event. It's coming up on Saturday, February 21st. It's from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the North County Pool, the parking lot at the North County Pool. So last year we had an event at the South County Park. This year we're starting off with an event for our North County residents. Again, it's all household, residential electronics, household waste, used oil, old computers, batteries, things like that. So,
Stuff that's not normally customarily brought into the recycling stream, and that's radios, TVs, telecommunication devices, all of that.
exactly. A lot of this stuff, residents may, we don't want it in our landfill, so it's an opportunity to recycle it. We do have the opportunity throughout the year to bring this at the convenience centers and the landfill. One of the things about an event like this, it does attract a lot of folks that may be closer, to that area. One of the things we're doing is raffling off a free laptop as well. So the flyers will be coming out on the paper, and they can bring that raffle ticket with them. So.
Thank you, Himanshu.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Look forward to that.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I see we have School Board Representative Sean Frost that's probably here for 7A. Under informational items.
Yes, am I recognized?
School Board Member Frost, great to see you.
Thank you. And thank you for this proclamation, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, esteemed staff. Thank you for this proclamation in support of School Choice Week. If you haven't followed it on social media, over the years it's gone from about 700, and hence the scarf here. Hopefully we'll get you some of these. It's gone from about 700 events nationwide to over 20,000 registered events. And in particular, I'd like to thank the Commission for recognizing the variety of opportunities in education we have in this community, and in support of those choices, because school choice really is about family empowerment. And anytime we can empower families to make the best decision for their student and their children, the better the result will be. So I just want to thank the Commission for filing this and for recognizing School Choice Week. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
That's pretty good. You even coordinated the yellow printing on the...
Yes. It's all about branding.
And it's cool enough for a scarf today.
It is. It is.
Yes.
And it'll be plenty
Don't
cool
do
in
this in
Tallahassee
July.
tomorrow when I'll be there. So.
And it looks cool, too. And I just want to thank you for making those statements. Well put.
Great.
I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you,
School
Sean.
Board Member Sean Frost. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I had time, I'd like to pull 7C.
7C, Charlie, please.
And this is just to mention that, once again, Fitch rated our water and sewer facilities, the Series 2009 bonds, and once again, we were AAA rated. AAA rating is not something that's given to, by any means, even most of the water and sewer facilities that we have in the state. So I think I just want to applaud the Utilities Department and let the citizens know that they continue to do a very good job for Indian River County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Benny Burke and team. And thank you, Commissioner Solari. Is there anything else that want to be pulled? I did want to talk about the committees, which is item F. We do have this posted on the website, but I just want to take the opportunity. We have an opening in the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and it's a 2-year term, and it's a citizen appointment. We also have an opening in the Agricultural Advisory Committee, and that's somebody specifically from the citrus industry. We have a Code Enforcement Board opening, and that's specifically for someone who is an architect. Construction Board Adjustment and Appeals, and it's a representative from the general public. And we have a Planning and Zoning Commission appointment, and I know that Commissioner Adams was working, it's in your district, she's working on getting the right person there. And we also have an opening in the Public Safety Coordinating Council. So without further, I just wanted to announce that we have those openings, and we appreciate the volunteer efforts of our citizens who step up to the plate and want to help us get the government's job done. Thank you. All right. Anything further on informational items?
Mr. Chairman, just real briefly, there's 2 job fairs coming up. One
Yes.
is Lowe's, the hardware store, is having a job fair for their Treasure Coast stores on this week, Thursday, January 12th. And next week, the City of Fort Pierce is hosting a job fair on Thursday, January 19th. And those flyers are in the backup. If anybody's interested, the details are in the backup. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Commissioners, is there anything that we'd like to pull for discussion? Hearing none, is there anybody from the public who would like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item is the constitutional offices and governmental agencies, Indian River County Supervisor elections. Leslie Swan.
Move approval.
Second with a comment, Mr. Chairman. I was ready to vote for this until she stumbled on her oath of office there. I don't know.
Well, my husband invited the whole neighborhood and didn't tell me they were coming, so it kind of shook me up a little. But I was glad they were here. Good morning, Commissioners.
Thank you, Counselor, too. Yes, good morning.
We're good. We got a motion.
It kind of looks like this is rolling in the direction you need, so I don't know if you want to add to it.
Well, you want to start with the first one?
Well, we already have a motion
We
and
have
a second.
motion by Commissioner Solari, seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. Is there any discussion on the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You got an unanimous consent?
Is that for both of them?
Yes.
I have a second
Move
one.
approval of item
Second.
9B.
And that's a motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Solari. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous once again.
I thought you'd
Great
like it that
presentation.
we were saving
Great
money for the
presentation.
county.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you very much.
Yes.
Chairman, while we have the supervisor at the podium, if I could ask just one question. Is there any additional changes coming up where city elections or municipal elections, the reporting of data, I know you post the vote tabulation, but I know you can go to your site and look up a host of information on candidates, donations, expenditures. Is that still hosted by the cities, or is that going to some point transition to a?
No, it's still hosted by the cities because the qualifying is done with the clerks of each of the municipalities. So it would be on their website if they were inclined to do so.
Okay. That's if they were inclined.
Right.
Right, okay. All
And
right.
actually, by the end of the month, we're going to have our RFP ready for our new voting system. So we'll be getting that over to you in the next week or so, and I'm sure the legal department will be looking over it and purchasing, and we'll be ready to go. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 12D from Human Resources, which is an update on the acupuncture benefit.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good
Suzanne
morning.
Boyle, Human Resources Director. I need to report that the plan change that you approved at the last meeting to limit visits to 26 per year for acupuncturists and cap the maximum annual benefit at $1,500 per member will be implemented February 1st. We did not need to extend this change to the chiropractor benefit, so it is only limited to the acupuncture benefit. Members will continue to have acupuncture benefits covered, which I think was important to the board, and we will continue to monitor claims experience and evaluate if additional plan modifications are needed in the future. So I think we're on the right track.
Thank you.
I think that's better news than we all expected today. Thank you very much
Yes.
for your work on this.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Chairman.
And yes.
Suzanne, I know that when we had the big meeting back in December, I believe a representative from the one office mentioned this, and a couple of the other employees, that they were going to start collecting a $30 copay, coinsurance, whatever.
Correct.
Do we have any idea, any way to monitor or verify if that is being collected
We
now?
do not.
We do not, okay.
Word.
Okay. I kind of reiterate Commissioner Solari's, I think if they do collect the $30 copay, I think that'd be great, because I think that'll have a little bit of a braking effect on the frequency of people utilizing it. And then with the 26 limit and the 1,500, I think we've come up with a pretty fair way to cap this escalating expense. I think the employees still have the opportunity to go get the treatment that they want, that they express that they wanted or needed. At the same time, limiting the fact that it just can't be unlimited and no skin in the game for the employees as well. So I'm cautiously optimistic that this will do it.
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure. We may not have to come back and revisit this, but obviously you are going to keep a very close eye on the claims over the next 6 months or so, and we can revisit it then. But I think the board came up with a very good, fair, equitable solution to this issue, and so I think it's good for the employees. They can still get the treatment they want, but we've capped it. So good.
I do as
good
well.
work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your support.
Susan. And Commissioner Zork, you had.
I'm good with the presentation that staff's made for today, and like Commissioner O'Brien, we'll see what we have to revisit in the future as we see how things progress.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. Well, we now have the ordinance concerning medical cannabis. Counselor?
Thank you very much to the chair and the board and those still remaining in the audience. The board has adopted regulations pertaining to medical marijuana in advance of the approval by the voters of Amendment 2. The Florida legislature has actually already adopted a statute concerning what is described as medical cannabis. Now, medical cannabis, although the same thing as medical marijuana, is actually regulated under a different framework, which is under Section 381.986 of the Florida statutes. Under the statute, Suzanne.
Can you carry that discussion outside of the chambers? Thank you.
So under the statute, local governments are prohibited from regulating the cultivation and processing of medical cannabis. However, a county may adopt ordinances governing the criteria for the number, the location, and other permitting requirements that are not inconsistent or conflict with state law or with department regulations. And those are regulations concerning medical cannabis dispensing facilities. Now, county staff has been approached by representatives who are seeking, or at least concerning the medical cannabis issue as opposed to the Amendment 2 issue. And thus, the county attorney's office was simply looking to get direction from the board today as to whether the board wanted us to incorporate into our code as possible, per the preemption requirements of the state, regulations concerning medical dispensing facilities for medical cannabis and incorporate those into the medical marijuana treatment center requirements in the code. If the board were to want to go in that direction, I think the other question that the county attorney's office had and staff had as well from the board was the board interested in having staff examine whether there were stricter requirements that we could impose and include in our ordinance code. So essentially today, the two things that the county attorney was looking for, or at least recommending, is that the board consider whether it wants staff to adopt an ordinance or draft an ordinance concerning medical dispensing facilities for medical cannabis, and also whether you wanted staff to look to sort of tighten up the restrictions we have in our code. And with that, I turn it back over to the board.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. Commissioner Solari.
If I may, Dylan, on the medical dispensers, can we just say add those to the existing medical marijuana so that the two of them overlap at the same locations?
From a locational standpoint, I believe yes.
Okay.
What we've included in our zoning code is some other sort of criteria or requirements, and staff in the county attorney's office would have to do a more specific detailed analysis to make sure that those specific requirements, such as hours of operation or security requirements, are permitted. But I believe in terms of just simply the locational requirements, I think we're fine with having the overlap of the two.
It seems to me that that's the simplest, easy way to go, that you just, everybody who's talking about marijuana, which is all the same thing, will know exactly what the playing field is, and we've already limited it very well. On the regulation, especially based on conversations with you, Mr. Attorney, it seems like this is just a way for people who already have the existing low THC
the low THC and the medical cannabis
to basically leverage their experience and get a benefit from the new regulations. And if we make it stricter, it just gives them a competitive advantage. And I really don't have any desire to give one medical marijuana group or THC dispensing group a competitive advantage. I don't see what that business is of ours. And quite frankly, I think those businesses are going to wither away, because anybody who can get one doctor to dispense medical marijuana is already there. And the cost of getting two doctors to sign the same thing when there's no practical benefit for it is, going to make the reality of the situation, it's going to be a medical marijuana center. So I have no desire to give any one existing dispensary business a competitive advantage. So I'll go ahead and, if you want to make a motion, that we go ahead and ask the county attorney to draft an ordinance which will fold the two different groups into one set of regulations and go through the process he described, where he makes sure that the hours of operation and the other details are consistent and follow state law.
Second.
And
I have a question for the attorney.
Yes.
Do we know how many dispensaries are dispensing the FDA-regulated cannabis, the other type that you mentioned that I was made aware of, that I guess some glaucoma patients or other ones have been utilizing that dispensing arrangement for many, many, many years? And I don't know if we have a way of they like going to a pharmacy for the dispensing of these. They don't want to go to a alternate, different location where it's, they're used to the medical, your traditional big box or small box dispensary of FDA-regulated medical.
So not that I am by any means the medical marijuana expert for the county, but as best I can understand under the statutory regime, the state has essentially established 5 dispensing organizations in the state of Florida that deal with low THC cannabis and medical cannabis and the delivery. Now, under the statutory regime, upon a registration of a certain number of folks, that group was actually going to expand. Additionally, I believe there were some other groups that were going to be included as part of the expansion as well. So it looks like the numbers are going to increase from what you originally heard a year or two ago, which was there were going to be 5, they were going to be evenly divided across the state. And certainly we don't know how that statutory regime is going to change through time. It may change from 5 to 8 and then all of a sudden open up further. So from this standpoint now, I know it started with 5. I know they were allowed to then expand to 8 with some other entities. And I think these are the types of folks who are asking, how do we open up dispensing organizations within your community to make sure we're getting our product out to the folks who under the statute can get it.
Okay.
But your understanding is there are none in the county today.
No
county
correct.
residents will be made, will have be inconvenienced by what we're doing today.
That is correct. As I understand it, we've merely had one of the organizations who are statutorily provided for approach staff to have an initial discussion about where they go and how they can operate here. So currently, to the best of our knowledge, we are not aware of any that are actually in Indian River County.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, and I believe, Commissioner Zorc, if you're suggesting that we look upon the customary pharmaceutical distribution points, I don't believe it'll get to that in any time soon, because they all have a network of distribution as well, centralized distribution, like one of the local pharmaceutical distributors has a distribution center here in the county. I don't believe that it's gotten to that yet. This is very much a work in motion at the state's level, And I think we have the great benefit of having, if we are to have this legislation, that it was brought upon as medicinal only and not complicated with the applications that have happened in some other states, specifically Colorado, where we've had so many distribution points for recreational and medicinal, and some counties not being involved with the recreational end, and then having these key locations. I realize you might be concerned that there would be a stigma of distribution if somebody had to go to a specific spot to get the prescribed drug that they needed for their condition. But I think that that's probably the pathway it's going to take.
All right.
And thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner O'Brien.
Yeah, I guess I'm leaning a little bit differently on this one than the Amendment 2 that just recently passed. Whether people understood it or not, what the implications were, Amendment 2, the folks in the state of Florida voted overwhelmingly that they wanted medical marijuana available for folks that had debilitating or life-ending diseases and needed some comfort. And I know that we don't have a current dispensary now, so we're not going to impact a current subscriber, but my fear is if we make this too restrictive for the low THC, we may be denying people that do have a legitimate need and they don't have a place to go. I think our restrictions on the Amendment 2, the medical marijuana, which is unlimited THC, is very restrictive and may even be successful in not allowing it to even happen at all, which I'd be fine with. But I would like to see the low THC be available to our residents if they have a need. Good with the fact that we have certain requirements in the ordinance that requires them to be a board-certified doctor in pain management and those type of legitimate, doctor-level things before they can prescribe it. But how I see the low THC is there's probably a lot worse things you can get on every drugstore in every corner of the county, oxycodone or hydrocodone or a lot of these other opiates and such. And I just don't want the low THC to be so restrictive that a person with a legitimate need prescribed by a doctor that meets our standards of board certified and pain management can't get it because the locations for those dispensaries is just too restrictive. So I'll probably be voting against this motion just because I don't mind wrapping them under the requirements of the board certified and all that, but I'd like to see a way if we can't open up more availability without just limiting it to the 2 places in the county that we currently have.
Commissioner O'Brien, to that point, what's one of the interesting things about the compassionate use statute is that it's actually recently merged 2 different concepts. So you have low THC, the cannabis, which you're talking about, but it also is now merged in medical cannabis. Now, medical cannabis is any and every part of the cannabis plant. So that side of the equation is now wrapped in with the low THC. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
My understanding is that's only for terminal patients.
Right. So and yeah. So the eligibility for that is you got to be terminal. You've got 2 separate doctors who verify that you are terminally ill. So there is a much more restrictive requirement if someone was to take advantage of the medical cannabis under the Compassionate Use Act.
Anything further? Well, we have a motion by Commissioner Solari, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? Anybody from the audience wish to discuss the topic? Stan? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner O'Brien dissenting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is we'll be shifting to the Solid Waste Disposal District, and that's approval of the minutes of November 22nd, 2016. And that's motion by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Solari. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And this, the next item is the CCNA 2014 Work Order Number 9, but to CDM Smith Incorporated for the 2017 Annual Financial Reports.
Move approval.
And that's a motion by Commissioner Solari, seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And finally, the final pay for CDM Smith, CCNA, 2014 Work Order Number 5, Full Cost Accounting and Financial Assurance Reporting.
Yeah, I'll just note for the public that this item actually is last year's version of the one we just passed before, making sure that we have the financial ability to take care of our landfill after the landfill closes. But, you know, these things don't come cheap. You know, this one is, well, the 2017 one is $58,000 basically. So we spend a lot of money, taxpayers' money, to make sure that we are able in the future to do the right thing. And I just, if somebody actually were able to code this so they could add all these things up together, I mean, with all the different landfills and environmentally injured pieces of property we have throughout the state, it is a huge number all in all. But we are in good shape, and I appreciate the work that Hamashu and the people from Solid Waste do, and happy to move approval.
Second. Thank you, Commissioner Solari. Any other further discussion? That's a motion by Commissioner Solari, seconded by myself. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Any further discussion? Well, with that, meeting adjourned.